Naruto Time Control Chapter 1, Popularity is also distress. Bikuj www.mtlnovel.com, the fastest update to the latest chapter of Naruto Time Control. Konoha Village. Ninja School. In one of the classrooms, teacher Zhongren was standing by with a form. Next, Hatake Mapleye. Accompanied by the voice of teacher Zhongren, I saw a young boy with short silver hair walking to the podium calmly, flying fingers with both hands, and making a simple nod in front of him. Boom! As the white smoke exploded with a bang, a clone appeared on the left side of Fengyi that was almost exactly the same as his movements. This scene caused many girls in the classroom to exclaim. It was not only the reason that the clone technique was released once, but also that Fengyi's appearance was one of the best in the class. 95 points, not bad. Teacher Zhongren nodded slightly at Fengyi and recorded the results with a pen. It was a one-time success and there were almost no flaws. This result could be ranked in the top 10 in the class, but Zhongren's eyes did not show much approval. The reason is simple. Fengyi has a younger brother named Hatake Kakashi. He applied for early graduation and passed at the age of 5. He was promoted to Zhongren at the age of 6. His amazing talent is known as Konoha. Many people see it as a genius who has inherited the will of Konoha White Fang. In comparison, Hatake Fengyi is very ordinary. Although Fengyi is also among the best in the class, everything is very good, but there is no harm without comparison. Now at the age of 8, he is still learning step by step in the ninja school, and has never shown as amazing as Kakashi talent. However, teacher Zhongren was not commenting, but some Yingdian voice still rang. Fengyi, how amazing! 95 points, is already the first place. Many girls stared at the stage with twinkling eyes. Traveling to this world, inheriting the lineage of Konoha's White Fang, Fengyi's appearance is basically the same as Kakashi, but he doesn't like wearing a mask, nor is he too cold like Kakashi, so in the class it is almost girls' focus. Fengyi walked back to his seat, smiled at Shirihong, who was looking at him, and said, "It's nothing, the avatar technique is not difficult, you can do it with more concentration." He came to this world 2 years ago, and unexpectedly got the status of Kakashi's brother, but he came a little bit late, and failed to stop Kakashi's father, the wooden Hatake Tsukumoyi by his death. This incident greatly affected Kakashi, and he applied for early graduation within a month. As a dignified traveler, inheriting the lineage of Konoha Baya, Fengyi is naturally no worse than Kakashi, but he thinks that graduating early is a stupid behavior, and he sneers at this behavior. What are you doing? Isn't it good to practice slowly in a ninja school and improve steadily? Why do you need to graduate early? What's more, it is Konoha's 42 years. If I remember correctly, next year will be the time for the Third Ninja World War to really begin. Recently, it can be said that the ninja world is in turmoil everywhere. If it's a peaceful period, it's okay to graduate early and become Xia Ren. Generally, you will perform some very ordinary tasks. However, during this turbulent period before the war, even Xia Ren will often perform some dangerous combat tasks. Kakashi graduated at the age of 5 and was promoted to Zhongren at the age of 6. It seemed amazing, but from Fengyi's eyes it was purely reckless, not to mention how dangerous the missions he participated in after being promoted to Zhongren, it was only revealed. Such a high talent will definitely attract the attention of hostile villages. This is a turbulent time. Yunin Village, Wuyin Village, Shain Village, and Yenin Village almost all acted on Konoha. A genius like Kakashi must be paid attention to by the other party, which is not a good thing. If you can have the strength of the ninja level, it would be fine to graduate early. Fengyi muttered in his heart. It is a pity that he still does not have the strength of the upper level of shinobi. Although he asked himself to be able to slap Kakashi's younger brother, he is at most the level of shinobi among the elite. This is still in the case of a special ability he possesses. After all, at the age of 8, the body is still in the developmental stage. For the ninja, it will not be considered to have truly passed the developmental stage and reach a stable stage until after the age of 16. Correct. What is worth mentioning is his special ability. It was a huge illusory clock pattern that he accidentally discovered after he crossed into this world. It exists in his mind and can be seen as long as he closes his eyes. This illusory clock is a bit like the Kiki Emperor of Kakuzo Toshizaki in a battle with the world, but so far he has only one ability unlocked, and that is time acceleration. It is similar to the inherent time control of the Fate world. It is the acceleration of time for itself. In the state of accelerating time, all his movements will become faster, including physical skills, not printing movements, etc., which is one of the reasons why he can hang Kakashi. Now he can use up to twice the time to accelerate, which means that his speed will be twice as fast as normal when the time is accelerating. Fengye, I brought 2 lunch boxes today, do you want to eat together later? As Fengye was thinking about it, a girl sitting in the front row turned her head, her cheeks flushed slightly to Fengye. This sentence immediately aroused the anger of other girls who watched nearby. Even Shirihong, who was sitting next to Fengye, looked at each other, and the smell of gunpowder instantly permeated. Upon seeing this, Fengye pouted helplessly. He probably understands why Kakashi wears a face mask, maybe it's because of such a situation. But this is also related to the fact that the other boys in the class have not played. Although this class lineup is quite luxurious and the future behind-the-scenes boss Uchiha Obito of Ninja, there are Noara Rin, Yurihong, Sarutobi Asuma and other original characters with names and surnames, but Obito is now a crane tail. Others such as Sarutobi Asuma have average appearance and performance. It takes a few years for Uchiha Itachi to enter a higher school. Uchiha Shisui did enter a higher school, but he was 2 grades lower than him. He was not in the same class, and there was almost no one who could play. If Kakashi does not graduate early, he might be able to share some popularity. Ugh. Being too popular is also a kind of distress. Fengye sighed in his heart. He used to be very envious of such a scene, but after he really experienced it, he could only sigh silently, but then again, the precocity of the girls in the Hokage world was even more outrageous than he thought. Looking at these young girls who have been jealous since they were 8 or 9 years old, you can probably understand. Compared to girls, boys are just as precocious. The scene near Fengye has already made many people in the class cast jealous eyes, vaguely burning anger, and some people have even clenched their fists. That bastard. It's disgusting, I really want to beat him up. But you can't beat him. You shut up. Among some teenagers who gnash their teeth and clench their fists, there is also Uchiha Obito in it, because Noara Rin is also one of the girls clustered around Maple Knight. Fengye doesn't care much about the others in the class. The only ones who care about are Akai and Uchiha Obito, but he cares about the Obito after the blackening and the before the blackening. Obito is basically not dangerous, and the tale of the dragging crane is one. Naruto Time Control Chapter 2, Triple Speed. Bikuj www.mtlnovel.com, the fastest update to the latest chapter of Naruto Time Control. Seeing that the order in the class became more and more chaotic, the girls began to rub the smell of gunpowder, and the boys also vaguely began to fight. Teacher Zhongren finally couldn't bear it, and he shouted, "Be quiet." Next, Uchiha Obito. The majesty of Mr. Zhongren still exists, and the class quickly calmed down after a shout. Uchiha Obito looked at Fengye angrily and walked up to the podium. After taking a look at Noara Rin, he took a deep breath, squeezed his fist, and sighed inwardly. This test must surpass Fengye. Boom! After the hands were sealed, white smoke flashed. The clone appearing next to Uchiha Obito looks a little slanted, although it can be regarded as a clone, it is fake at a glance. 50 points. Mr. Nakanin glanced at Uchiha Obito. Almost all members of Uchiha clan, known as the concentration camps of geniuses, are among the best in the school, but Uchiha Obito is an exception. I'll come again. Naturally, Uchiha Obito was not reconciled to the score of 50 points, and immediately sealed again, but due to the collapse of the mentality, the second release of the clone failed directly. The final third release was not much better than the first one. The final score only reached 55 points, without passing the passing line. Fengye was also watching this scene, only one thought flashed in his mind. Blackening is really outrageous. Just because I witnessed the death of Noara Rin, the tail of the crane Uchiha Obito was blackened on the spot. It not only opened the kaleidoscope to right round eyes, but also awakened one of the strongest abilities of Vishinwei, and even the combat experience and character will have been reversed by 180 degrees. It didn't take long to kill Konoha and release Kyubi, which indirectly killed the 4 generations of Hokage and Namikaze Minato, one of the bug characters. Simply outrageous. If he didn't know the plot of the original story, he really couldn't imagine releasing a Obito with such a bad avatar, and becoming one of the big bosses in the future of ninja. After shaking his head, Feng Yi retracted his gaze. He has no idea about Obito. After all, Uchiha Madara is the key hidden in the dark. Even without Uchiha Obito, Uchiha Madara will do it again. Produce a Uchiha with fire, Uchiha with water or something. The most important thing is to have enough strength. After all, a year later is the beginning of the 3 world wars. During the war, there was no such thing as a graduation assessment. He graduated compulsorily when he was 9 years old, which meant that he wanted to stay in school and could only stay for another year. I don't know if I can have the strength of Shangnin in 1 year. Feng Yi pondered in his heart. In the Third Ninja World War, Xia Ren and Zhong Ren were almost cannon fodder. Fortunately, he was in Konoha. If it was in other villages, even Shangren was cannon fodder, because there is a Namikaze Minato that can kill in seconds. 50 Shangnin bugs exist. If he unlocks a few more time system abilities, he can also cross the ninja realm with the power of time alone, but unfortunately only the time acceleration corresponding to the 1-point position can be used so far. Still rely on ninjutsu and physical skills. And just as Feng Yi was thinking about it, a clear ding-dong sound suddenly sounded in his mind, like the sound of a clock passing a certain point. What? Feng Yi gave a sigh, a hint of joy flashed in his eyes, and immediately closed his eyes. After he closed his eyes, a huge, silver-white, illusory-like clock appeared in the dark world before him, and he could clearly see the golden hour and minute hands. The hour hand did not move, still pointing to 1 o'clock. In the center of the dial of Unreal Clock, there is a mechanical text dial that seems to record the date, but it is not the date that is recorded, but the multiplier of the time acceleration. No new abilities were unlocked, but... Feng Yi pondered for a moment. Click. Along with his thoughts, the mechanical text made a clicking sound and turned, jumping from the number 0 to the number 1, then to the number 2, and finally to the number 3. Sure enough, you can enter the triple speed state. Seeing the numbers on the dial, Feng Yi let out a sigh of relief. When he first crossed into this world, the time acceleration he could manipulate was only between 1 and 1.5 times. About a year later, he heard the same ding-dong sound in his ears, and the upper limit of the time acceleration rate also changed. Become 2 times faster. Now the upper limit has become 3 times the speed. It seems that it was also the upper limit of the rate that was raised at this time last year. Maybe every year, the upper limit of the time rate I can accelerate will increase once. Such a thought flashed in Feng Ye's mind. Although it is impossible to confirm, it seems that this is the rule. It will be clear by this time next year. It's a little regrettable that I still haven't got other abilities. I don't know when the ability corresponding to the 2 o'clock scale will be unlocked. However, the current time acceleration alone is also extremely powerful. What you can feel when time is accelerating is that the world in front of you has become slower several times. Whether it is your own speed or reaction speed, it is a conflict-free improvement. If an ordinary middle ninja can increase the time flow rate by 5 times, it is not a problem even against a high ninja, and if a supreme ninja can increase the time flow by 5 times, it is even a member of the 5 great ninja villages. Shadow, it may not be able to win. This is the same for Feng Yi. As long as he has the strength of the middle ninja level under normal conditions, he can fight against the upper ninja, and with the strength of the upper ninja level, looking at the entire ninja world, few people can touch him. This premise is only 5 times the speed. If the Unreal Clock can be increased to 10 times the speed or even higher, then the speed alone is already an extremely terrifying ability. How strong will 8 gate at 10 times the speed state? Feng Ye now added a picture. It was a huge air cannon 10 times more than Shixiang. One shot penetrated the clouds and exploded the moon made by the 6 immortals in space, exploding into a scene of countless fragments. Thinking of this, Feng Yi couldn't help taking a breath, and it took a few seconds before she recovered. 10 times faster 8 gate is still a bit far away, but 8 gate can indeed be considered. This should be one of the most time-accelerated abilities. As for the others, the released ninjutsu will not be affected by the acceleration of time and accelerate the flight trajectory. The scope of the acceleration of time is limited to your body, but the speed of the seal and the release speed are also double speed, which also has a lot of effect. To know the release speed of a ninjutsu is very important, just like the Thunder God's art that makes the ninjutsu shudder, its power is that there is no seal and release delay. Speaking of, now he is able to achieve triple speed. He can easily beat Kakashi, who is already Zongnin in the previous double speed state. Now in the triple speed state, he should be able to easily defeat the average elite Zongnin. There should be some gaps. Close to the special ninja. Feng Yi judged his current strength, and felt that he should be a little bit closer to the special upper endurance, but at this time next year, reaching the special upper endurance level should not be a problem. In the world of ninjas, when you reach a special upper ninja, you can barely be regarded as a strong man. The middle and lower ninjas are basically cannon fodder in war. Especially the upper ninja, there are 2 divisions, the upper ninja and the elite upper ninja, and the upper ninja is the shadow, but this world does not have the name of the shadow class, so in terms of the ninja level, the elite upper ninja is the apex, but in the Maple Knight now, ninjas like Konoha White Fang and Danzo, who are far better than the average elite Sharingan, can be called shadow level, to facilitate the distinction. Naruto Time Control Chapter 3, The Unwillingness of Obito. Bikuj www.mtlnovel.com, the fastest update to the latest chapter of Naruto Time Control. Feng Ye's movements have been under observation in Obito. When he saw Feng Yi closing his eyes, not looking at him, and shaking his eyelids a few times, as if he was deliberately provoking, he couldn't help holding his fist. Damn, what's so arrogant? The guy who was left behind by his brother. Obito gritted his teeth. But Kakashi is also an arrogant bastard, although it only took less than half a year to graduate early, but in short, the 2 brothers are more uncomfortable than one. I heard that Kakashi followed Sharingan to complete an A-level mission not long ago. Although he's a bit unwilling, but that guy is indeed a bit powerful. He was promoted to Zongnin last year. Maybe it won't take long to become Sharingan. Someone heard the words of Uchiha Obito and deliberately followed the words of Obito. Feng Ye's performance in the class is usually within the top 10, and occasionally he will get the first place. She has to use grades and performance to mock Feng Yi. There is no suitable reason, but if you compare it with Kakashi, it can suppress Feng Yi. After all, compared with Kakashi, who graduated at the age of 5 and was promoted to Shinobu at the age of 6, Feng Ye's light was immediately covered up, and it was even somewhat difficult to compare with Kakashi. The person next to him also immediately understood his intentions, glanced at Feng Yi, and said casually, although I don't want to admit it, that guy is indeed a genius. Compared with him, some people seem to be less qualified to be brothers. This sentence is almost named as a surname. Before Feng Yi had any reaction, a girl sitting in front of Feng Yi, Yamanaka-ka, stood up, looked at the talking Inuzuka tooth angrily, and said, Hey! What are you talking about? Inuzuka-chi was glared at by the girl, naturally impossible to shrink back, and said, What's wrong, did I say something wrong? Yamanaka was annoyed, but she couldn't find any words to refute. Feng Yi opened his eyes, looked at Yamanaka-ka, and smiled indifferently. That guy Kakashi is indeed a genius. It is very difficult for ordinary people to compare with him. Yamanaka nodded, and said, you don't need to pay attention to Feng Yi. A ninja like your brother has never appeared for many years. You don't need to be with Kakashibi. Shirihong nodded in agreement. As long as it doesn't compare with Kakashi's monster, Feng Yi is already a genius with outstanding performance in this class, and there is no black spot at all. Feng Yi was interrupted before he finished speaking, shrugged innocently, and didn't make much excuses, just looked at Shirihong and smiled. Seeing that Feng Yi didn't want to argue with him, Inuzuka-chi saw that the girls reached an agreement. Although they were a little unwilling, they could only mutter a few words and withdraw their eyes. Shirihong looked at Fengyi, her big beautiful eyes flickered slightly, and she whispered, with a brother like Kakashi, the pressure should be quite high. Do not. Fengyi looked at Shirihong and said with a smile, why is there pressure? The stronger my brother, the better. It's not Hyuga clan. Yurihong blinked and said, what happened to Hyuga clan? Oh, you don't know. Fengyi briefly talked about the family and division of Hyuga clan, which made Shirihong a little surprised. Yurihong looked at a person in the inner corner of the class and whispered in her heart, I didn't expect the famous Hyuga to be like this. The person sitting in the corner is called Hyuga Human. He is the nephew of the patriarch Hyuga and a member of the branch. As a famous Hyuga clan, he has the pride of being famous. He is very disdainful of Fengyi, who is often surrounded by girls. His grades have always been the first and second in the class. He is only the target of Kakashi. In fact, he can do it if he wants to graduate early, but the elders in the family warn him not to graduate early, and that it is enough to practice step by step, so he just did it. I vaguely heard Fengyi mentioning Hyuga clan, and Human turned his head to look at Fengyi, and frowned slightly, but didn't understand what Fengyi was saying. Although I can't hear clearly, I can probably guess that Fengyi mentioned about Hyuga clan, and Hyuga Human's eyes flickered. It's a little too arrogant. Although he is a bit uncomfortable with things like being surrounded by girls and being popular, he doesn't care very much. It is another matter to mention Hyuga clan. Do you want to warn after class? Hyuga Human's eyes flickered. Fengyi is not Kakashi after all, and in his opinion, only Kakashi can beat him among people of similar age. Just as Hyuga was thinking about the fire door, the last student also completed the practice test of the avatar technique. Teacher Zhongren recorded the final scores, glanced at the transcript, and said, today's test is over. The ones that failed are Uchiha Obito, Uenita, and, after a few lessons, give me some practice. Tomorrow there will be a simulation test, and all are ready. 4 days are the formal entrance examination. Those who fail to pass will stay in school during winter vacation until they pass the examination. As teacher Zhongren's voice fell, many students in the class took a long breath. The Uchiha Obito and others who failed the test had a dark complexion. Of course, no one wanted to do tutoring during the winter vacation. It would be shameful not to mention it without the holidays. That's it for today, you can go home early. Teacher Zhongren put the transcript into the folder, and after sorting it out, he addressed the students in the class. Hearing what Mr. Zhongren said, many students stood up and bowed to Mr. Zhongren. After the teacher nodded and left the classroom, they all dispersed. After getting rid of the girls like Yurihong and Yamanakayan, Fengyi quickly returned home with the reason of, I have something to do, I will go back first. It's interesting to see these precocious 8-year-old and 9-year-old girls jealous there, but Fengyi has more important things to do, and that is to adapt to the state of triple speed as soon as possible. The triple speed corresponds to the double speed, and the speed has been improved a bit. After a simple dinner, Fengyi came to the backyard, entered a state of triple speed, and began to shake his fist against the pegs placed in the backyard to exercise. In order to make the body grow faster, in addition to turning on the double speed state during exercise, Fengyi also turns on the double speed during normal sleep. The cell division and metabolism of the body also become faster. Others' day is almost equivalent to his 2 days. So although his age is 8 years old, his actual physical age is already 9 years old due to the speed of the dream in the past 2 years. If you keep turning on the double speed state, your body can grow faster, but it's really boring to turn on the double speed state at ordinary times. Listening to a class is like playing at a rate of 0.5 times. Every tone of the teacher will be stretched, which is compelling. Onset. Moreover, if you keep double speed on, in order to make yourself appear normal, you have to slow down your speaking speed and movements, which is very troublesome, so Fengyi still uses the normal state in school. Naruto Time Control Chapter 4, Exercise 72 hours a day. Bikuj www.mtlnovel.com, the fastest update to the latest chapter of Naruto Time Control. Boom. 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 Fengyi's fists kept falling on the wooden stakes, making a dull sound, and the tough special wooden stakes had very obvious depression marks from the fists. He is still very physical exercises. For him, the ability of time acceleration now has two functions. One is to have a base speed that is more than twice the average number of people in battle, and it can be stacked at will. As for the second, it is to increase the speed of cultivation, or increase the time of cultivation. Cultivation in a state where time is accelerating, and 3 hours of self-cultivation, only 1 hour has passed by the outside world. Speaking of, regardless of whether it is in a combat state or a state of practice, the acceleration of time seems to only increase speed, but in fact strength is also included, because according to Newton's second law, force is equal to mass multiplied by acceleration, and this law is even in Hokage. The same applies to the world. Feng Yi still vaguely remembered that a character in a certain world said this speed is power. Have you ever been kicked by the speed of light? If under the acceleration of time, the speed can finally reach the speed of light, then the power under a single blow may be able to destroy the world. The technique of shadow clone. After adapting to the triple speed state for a while, Feng Yi stopped her movements, her hands were immediately sealed, and she used the shadow clone technique. Boom! Boom! Along with the smog, two identical maple knights appeared on the left and the right. Shadow clone technique, which can be called the strongest training aid, is naturally impossible for Feng Yi to ignore. He had obtained the method of shadow clone technique from Kakashi a long time ago. If you use this technique in a school, you will undoubtedly be shocked, because the technique of shadow clone is a B-level ninjutsu, which is 3 levels behind the E-level ordinary clone. Even some Zongnin may not be able to use shadow clone skillfully. The skill of shadow clone alone was enough to crush most of the students and graduated from the ninja school early. Whoosh! Whoosh! After the two shadow clone appeared, they ran to the sides of the courtyard one by one. One of shadow clone picked up a short knife placed on the left side of the yard. It was the ninja sword and white teeth left by Hatake Sakumo and was inherited by his eldest son. For the famous swordsmanship Hatake of the ninja world, Feng Yi has also been practicing, because it is a combination of Chakra's physical skills, and the ability to double the speed of time is also very compatible. It can be said. If he can practice Hatake swordsmanship to the level of Konoha's white teeth, the vertical and horizontal ninja world is absolutely nothing to say. In the state of double speed, he can even fight against those who exceed the shadow level. Another shadow clone is in another corner of the yard, restraining the chakra in the palm of the hand, letting the chakra condense into a spherical shape. Yes, it is Rasengan. The core of Rasengan is the shape change of chakra, and because it is a close ninjutsu, it also has the ability to double the speed of time. The most important thing is that the practice of Rasengan helps to improve chakra's control. Today's Feng Yi has already passed the practice of climbing trees and treading water. To further improve the control of chakra, practicing Rasengan is undoubtedly a good way, just because his chakra volume is far less abnormal than Naruto, and the progress of practicing Rasengan is not very good. Soon, only a few months have passed since then. With a triple speed state, my body will grow to about 10 years old in about a month. It should be barely up to the standard for practicing 8-gate. Feng Yi was thinking about the future direction while practicing. 8-gate is very important to him, because the side effects are very big and the age is too young to be suitable for spiritual practice, so he didn't go to Meido Dai to try to steal lessons. But no matter what, the training method of 8-gate still needs to be obtained. Although the side effects are huge, the effect is beyond doubt. Feng Yi is very clear about the core of his practice, that is, to improve his strength in all directions as much as possible. In this way, under the state of accelerating time, he can play 3 times, 5 times the strength. After all, to him, the unreal clock brings almost like the intrinsic time control that has no side effects and can be turned on normally. It is a more advanced version of the ability of the Holy Grail world. Laugh. 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 Holding the clone of Ninja White Fang in his hand, he constantly swung Chakra's short knife on the east side of the small courtyard. Shadow Clone cannot enjoy the state of time acceleration, but this does not prevent Feng Yi from using Shadow Clone to practice. All he needs is the experience and proficiency of practicing Hatake swordsmanship. On the other side of Shadow Clone, there are strands of chakras condensed in the palm of the palm, allowing these chakras to continuously rotate to form a hazy spherical halo. Puff. Puff. After practicing for a while, the two shadow clone ran out of chakras, and disappeared into white smoke. Feng Yi stopped her movements and felt the experience and memories from shadow clone pass into his mind, quickly absorbed by him. After taking a deep breath, Feng Yi closed the seal again. Boom! Boom! 2 more shadow clone appeared. The second release of the shadow clone technique, Feng Yi's forehead showed a trace of sweat, and he could clearly feel that the chakra in his body was somewhat weak. Chakra volume is always a problem. Feng Yi sighed in her heart. The kind of Naruto that can be practiced with dozens of hundreds of shadow clone is indeed abnormal. The abnormality in the abnormal is simply outrageous. After all, that is the physique of the Vortex clan and the strength of the nine-tailed man. The chakra is so huge that it is difficult to imitate. Practice for a while. The 2 shadow clone once again turned into white smoke and disappeared. Feng Yi did not continue to separate shadow clone, because the body has been exercising physical skills, and chakra is also depleting. Now he uses shadow clone twice, and each time is divided into 2, which is almost the limit. 1377, 1378. Constantly using the posture of side kicking, kicking on the side of the peculiar wooden stake, Feng Yi muttered, counting in her heart, until she felt that her body was a little unable to hold on, then stopped. There was no acceleration of closing time. Feng Yi kept the acceleration of time, walked to the side of the small courtyard, slowly picked up the water glass, took a sip of water, and ate 2 more biscuits. When time accelerates, the recovery will be faster. If it has been turned on for 3 times the time to accelerate, then for Feng Yi, it is equivalent to 72 hours a day. During this process, he has to eat 9 meals and sleep 3 times. I don't know if I can practice with a whole body fracture and a high fever of 49 degrees, but it is indeed possible to exercise for more than 25 hours a day. Feng Yi murmured silently in her heart. Naruto Time Control Chapter 5, Kakashi's Challenge. Bikuj www.ntlnovel.com, the fastest update to the latest chapter of Naruto Time Control. Just as Feng Yi was about to continue his practice, he suddenly noticed something and looked up at the outer wall on the side of the courtyard, saying, "It seems that you have developed the habit of not going to the front door." What appeared on the outer wall was a familiar figure with the same silver-white hair and a mask. It was Kakashi and Hataki. "No, I just came back from that direction." Kakashi jumped off the outer wall and fell into the courtyard. Standing close together, the difference between Kakashi and Feng Yi is still not small. One is that the hair stays longer, the other is wearing a mask, and the third is that the height and body shape are obviously smaller than that of Feng Yi. Kakashi pointed at Feng Yi and said, "As you judged by your brother, the friction between the villages has become more intense. The most recent tasks have been to block and investigate each other. That's it." Feng Yi didn't have any accidents. After all, he traveled through this world, except for a few things in the ninja school. It had no impact on the direction of the world. Under the general trend, next year must be the year when the Third Ninja War broke out. Aren't you going to graduate? There is nothing you can learn by staying in school. Kakashi looked at Feng Yi. Others may not know, but he knows how strong Feng Yi is, at least so far, he has never won a duel with Feng Yi. You must know that he endured his promotion last year, and he came to Feng Yi to challenge him after he was promoted, but he still couldn't beat Feng Yi. Feng Yi's speed was almost abnormal. And Feng Yi is not only powerful, but also powerful in his heart. Although he is only 1 year older than him, he can almost make many judgments of the situation as adults. Feng Yi looked at Kakashi and smiled, and said, "It is true that I can't learn anything from the teacher, but I have more time to practice my own practice in school. Say, you have come into contact with what I said recently." "How many techniques?" Because Kakashi is already a ninjutsu, Kakashi can be exposed to far more ninjutsu than he can contact. Maple Knight learns a lot of ninjutsu from Kakashi, in addition to letting Kakashi. Cassie focuses on 2 techniques, one is the of thunder and the other is 8-gate. Needless to say, 8-gate is a technique that you must obtain anyway. If Lei Shen, you can try to practice it. It is natural to have a life-saving magical skill if you can practice it. It does not matter if you fail to practice it. For those who can manipulate time to him, the importance of space ninjutsu is not huge. Those techniques are all in the Book of Seals, how can they be so easily accessible? Kakashi rolled his eyes. Although he is already in the middle of ninjutsu, and can also come into contact with many ninjutsu such as Shadow Clone, but for the forbidden arts such as Thunder God and Eight Gate, it is not that easy to come into contact. There will always be a chance. Feng Yi didn't care. When Kakashi became a shinobu, it would not be difficult to get in touch. But then again, Kakashi became a shinobu at the age of 12. Maybe he would be faster than Kakashi. After all, you will be forced to graduate next year anyway, and then there will be the Ninja World War. In the war, there is no possibility of hiding your clumsiness. In the face of countless dangers, you must go all out. Kakashi shook his head, it's a shame you can bear it. After his father could not bear the villagers' criticism and committed suicide, he was greatly affected. He didn't want to be watched by that kind of strange eyes, so he showed his extraordinary talents. He graduated at the age of 5 and was promoted at the age of 6. Look at him with strange eyes. But Feng Ye studied step by step in the ninja school, which was in sharp contrast with the 6-year-old promoted to Zongnin. During that time, discussions were heard almost everywhere in the village. Kakashi knew that Feng Ye's strength was above him. However, Feng Yi was unmoved at all, ignoring all those criticisms, and still calmly going to school normally, and never mentioned things like graduating early. Feng Yi sighed and said, "You still don't understand. The famous ninja, Konoha White Teeth Hatake Sakumo, who made great achievements in World War II, really was forced to commit suicide by the villagers just because of one mission. Nonsense. Feng Yi in the previous life may not be sure, but Feng Yi, who came to this world and experienced this incident, knew very well that the development of this incident must have been caused by the senior Konoha. At least Sarutobi Hiruzen, the 3 generations of Hokage, have never come forward for this from beginning to end. Otherwise, it would be a matter of a few words to suppress a mission failure event, let alone save the companion. Mission failed. Although Feng Ye could not determine the specific situation, it can be roughly inferred that Danzo must be involved, because Hatake Sakumo has threatened Danzo's status. With strong strength and military exploits, no surprises, Hatake Sakumo can succeed the 4 generations of Hokage. This may be the reason why Danzo started. Since the death of Hatake Sakumo is inseparable from Danzo, he and Kakashi are also in the high-level gaze. It is good for Kakashi to show extraordinary talents alone, even if Danzo wants to kill Kaka. West absorbed into root cultivation, Sarutobi Hiruzen would not agree. But if he also showed amazing talent, it would be different. Based on his understanding of Danzo's character, this guy must be able to come up with 10,000 reasons to convince Sarutobi Hiruzen to let him and one of Kakashi join the Roots. It is naturally impossible for Feng Ye to join the Roots. Kakashi is also his younger brother anyway, and it is impossible for Kakashi to enter the Roots to accept Danzo's brainwashing. Know what? Kakashi looked at Feng Yi in confusion. Feng Yi shook his head and didn't intend to explain these things to Kakashi. Kakashi was too young now and had a radical personality. It would be better not to let him understand Konoha's darkness. But it's almost. Feng Yi showed a thoughtful look. Now he has entered the tense situation before the outbreak of the Third Ninja World War. In this situation, even if he reveals his strength, it does not matter. Danzo has not yet rested at this time and still has the mind to expand his roots, so he must pay attention. They are all placed in other villages. The Third Ninja War is a crisis and an opportunity. Kakashi will be promoted to Shinobu in the war, and he is the same. Once both of them are promoted to Shinobu, they will be able to get rid of the shadow of Danzo. Even if the war is over, Danzo has no reason to treat the village. Officially tolerate random transfers, Sarutobi Hiruzen will not tolerate them. As for thinking more about it, it's not impossible for him to improve his practice during the Third Ninja World War, to surpass the upper ninja, and to have the strength comparable to the shadow level. After all, he has an illusory clock and has the power to manipulate time. By the way, I don't know how your recent practice, brother. After Kakashi looked at the wooden stakes placed in the courtyard, he suddenly turned to look at Fengyi, a faint gleam of light in his eyes. Although he has never beaten Fengyi so far, he has never given up the idea of defeating Fengyi, especially in the recent period. After experiencing continuous battles, he feels that his strength has improved a lot. If Fengyi neglects his practice, if you do, you might not be able to beat him this time. After all, he has never been lazy since he became a ninja. He has been working hard to practice, and he has also experienced countless actual and battles, and his strength has been improving. Fengyi raised his eyebrows. Kakashi knew what Kakashi meant in the middle of saying this. Well, I also want to see how much you have improved recently. Naruto Time Control Chapter 6, Blood Succession Limits. Bikuj www.ntlnovel.com, the fastest update to the latest chapter of Naruto Time Control. Konoha Village. Back Mountain. Kakashi is already Zhongren, and Fengyi's strength is also above Zhongren. It is naturally impossible for the two to play against each other in the small courtyard. That is definitely not possible. Are you ready? Standing in the open space, Kakashi, holding a kunai in both hands, looked at Fengyi from a distance, leaning forward slightly, and entered a state of combat. Fengyi stood on the spot, holding the chakra short knife and white teeth, calmly looking at Kakashi, and said, "Come on." Whoosh! The moment Fengyi's voice fell, Kakashi's figure rushed over. The two Kouwu turned into afterimages and flew from side to side to invade. Fengyi waved the chakra knife in his hand unhurriedly and fought up and down to block Kakashi's offensive. Tsang! After resisting a few tricks, Fengyi's eyes flashed, and the chakra knife in his hand suddenly slashed, breaking Kakashi's two Kunwa defenses abruptly, and slashing Kakashi's chest with a knife. Kakashi's figure turned into smoke in an instant. Shadow Clone. Art Fire Escape Fireball. In the next moment, a voice came from behind Fengyi, and with the heat swaying away, a huge fireball was seen attacking Fengyi's back. Fengyi's complexion remained unchanged, and as soon as he stepped on the ground, he flew a certain distance, avoiding the frontal attack of How Fireball. Whoosh! 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 In the next instant, 7 or 8 shurikens spun out of the fireball, wrapped in flames, completely blocking Fengyi's retreat. The combination of ninjutsu and shuriken is already very skillful. Fengyi smiled, the short knife in his hand and the white teeth suddenly turned into an afterimage, showing a strange speed, drawing silk threads in the air. 7 or 8 shurikens wrapped in flames were suddenly resisted by Fengyi. Laugh! Almost at the same time that Fengyi blocked the shuriken, Kakashi's figure emerged from the ground less than 1 meter behind Fengyi, and the kunai thorn in his hand reached Fengyi's vest and stood still. I won. A trace of sweat spilled from Kakashi's forehead, and a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. This was the first time he had beaten Fengyi since he and Fengyi played against each other. However, at this moment, Fengyi, who was standing in front of him, turned his head, smiled faintly at him, and said, "Do you really think so?" Boom! As the voice fell, Fengyi's body moved backward and deliberately ran into Kakashi's kunai, and the whole person instantly turned into smoke and disappeared. This scene made Kakashi stand in stunned position, revealing a hint of disbelief. Clone. How is this possible? Before Kakashi could react, there was a gust of wind behind him. Kakashi turned around and waved his arm to resist, but was still kicked in the arm. A heavy force used to fall, making Kakashi unable to resist, and the whole person staggered backward 5 or 6 steps, and then it was difficult to stabilize his figure. That was Shadow Clone just now. Kakashi looked at Fengyi in disbelief. During the whole process, he obviously didn't see Fengyi using the technique Shadow Clone, and how could this technique be used silently without noticing it at all? Do not. Fengyi shook his head and said, "That's just an ordinary clone." Kakashi was taken aback for a moment, and said incomprehensibly, "Impossible. The clone has no attack ability, how can it block my Yen Shuriken? When the Yen Shuriken is blocked, it is still the main body." Fengyi smiled faintly, and said, "Just say you may not understand, see for yourself." With the voice falling, Fengyi held the hilt of the white tooth in one hand, and in the other hand, at an unbelievably fast speed, he completed the seal of the two techniques almost in an instant. Clone technique. Stand-in surgery. This. Kakashi was dumbfounded for a moment. He can also do avatar and stand-in. This is the most basic ninjutsu in the ninja school, and it is not worth surprises. What really makes him unbelievable is the speed of Fenya's knot. One-handed knot printing. And the speed of Jiayin is faster than that of two hands. Although he knew that Feng Ye's speed was very fast a long time ago, much faster than him, but this time Feng Ye's fingerprinting speed is a bit ridiculously fast. It doesn't seem to be an action that a normal human can complete. It almost looks at it. Unclear. What's the matter with your fingers? That speed is not something normal people can do. Kakashi opened his eyes wide. Feng Yi was not surprised by Kakashi's reaction. After all, he used triple speed this time. The double speed Jiayin may be normal, but the triple speed Jiayin is completely abnormal from the perspective of a normal person, and there are even some ghosts. Who knows? Feng Yi shrugged and said, maybe my motor nerves are different from ordinary people. Kakashi looked at Feng Yi with a dead fish eye of, you are teasing me, no matter how different the motor nerves are from ordinary people, it can't be as exaggerated as before. I remember you were not so fast a long time ago. It seems that since 2 years ago, it has been getting faster and faster. Kakashi recalled the weird scenes that she had seen occasionally before, and he couldn't help but frown and muttered, this situation is obviously abnormal. It's almost reaching the boundary of blood inheritance. If you can do it faster. Blood following the limit. This is a word that ninjas are familiar with. There are many blood inheritance boundaries in the world. The most common one is the change and fusion of the chakra nature, the formation of the blood inheritance boundaries such as dissolving and burning. In addition, it also includes riding wheel eyes, white eyes, bone veins, etc. The speed that Feng Yi showed was actually nothing in front of Shangren, but the problem was that the speed seemed very abnormal, like the whole person was in a certain acceleration state, showing a state of disconnection from the world. The only explanation that can be thought of is blood succession boundary. Hitaki clan has inherited only Hitaki swordsmanship from ancient times to the present, and there hasn't been any blood succession boundary, but there are also many examples of ordinary ninja awakening blood succession boundary in the ninja world. Feng Ye's special state may not be considered as the limit of blood succession now, but if it can be faster, it must be a special kind of blood succession limit. Well, it seems to be the case. Feng Yi said thoughtfully. For the unreal clock, blood succession boundary was indeed a suitable explanation. The world of Hokage has all kinds of strange abilities, even Izanagi has bug-like forbidden techniques, and it is not uncommon for the blood to increase the speed limit to be put in. Kakashi looked at Feng Yi thoughtfully and said, if you think so, it should be correct, but I have never seen this kind of blood succession limit in my memory, and there is no similar impression. Feng Yi touched his chin and said, if there is no record, then I will be the first to awaken. In this case, just call it the blood of ghosts. Ghost escape. Kakashi said, the non-human movement speed is indeed like a ghost, but it fits the image. In fact, I think of ghost animals. Feng Yi murmured silently in her heart, but whether it is a ghost or a ghost, it is only a surface cover. If you really regard this ability as the limit of blood inheritance, then it should be called. Time Blood continues. Naruto Time Control Chapter 7, Kakashi and Mado Guy. Bikuj www.mtlnovel.com, the fastest update to the latest chapter of Naruto Time Control. But it's very unfair. Kakashi looked at Feng Yi with a fish-eyed gaze, and said, no wonder you can't beat you all the time. Using blood to limit this kind of thing is already cheating. Feng Yi smiled, and said, when is a ninja cheating with blood inheritance fighting? But since you say that, then I don't need this ability to fight with you again. Kakashi is indeed a genius. Although he also inherited the lineage of Konoha Whitefang, Fenya's ninjutsu talent is indeed not as good as Kakashi, but this does not prevent him from being stronger than Kakashi, because he has more time to practice than Kakashi. The effect of time acceleration is not only reflected in combat, but also in cultivation. From the time of crossing, Feng Ye's cultivation time so far is at least twice that of Kakashi. No, forget it. Kakashi thought for a moment, but shook his head. Blood succession limit is indeed a ninja's own ability, it is not cheating, even if he wins Funya who does not use blood succession limitation, it is nothing. Ninja world has never heard of the saying that others are not allowed to use blood to continue the boundary. However, even if there is blood inheritance, it may not always be stronger than me. If you are not careful, I will overtake me. Kakashi looked at Fengyi, without showing any frustrated expression. After all, in the world of ninjas, the limit of blood is not invincible. The 3 generations of Hokage and Sarutobi Hiruzen have no blood limit, but the name is powerful in the entire ninja world, and is even regarded by the Konoha ninjas as the strongest among the 5 shadows. Then I will wait for you to surpass me. Fengyi smiled and reached out to touch Kakashi's head, but Kakashi frowned and jumped away. And just as Kakashi was planning to complain about Funya not to use this kind of action against children, a voice that seemed to be full of vitality suddenly sounded from not far away. Ah! Kakashi, you are here. I have been looking for you for a long time. Fengyi turned his head to look, and saw a young man in a green tights rushing over from the bushes. His appearance could almost recognize his identity at a glance. Mato guy. The Mato guy that rushed out left Fengyi directly, and jumped towards Kakashi, kicked it with a stamina whip and kicked it directly. A showdown. Kakashi. Look. Konoha Cyclone. Kakashi glanced at Mato guy with dreamless eyes, waved his arms silently to resist, and countered with a cross kick. Mato guy accepted Kakashi's counterattack, as if endless vitality surged in his body, and said, "This time I must win, Kakashi. Take it." Boom. 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 In an instant, Mato guy and Kakashi fought together. As in the original book, Mato guy regarded Kakashi as an opponent during the enrollment period, and has been working hard to challenge Kakashi. Fengyi looked at Mato guy and Kakashi in the fierce fight, shrugged, jumped to a tree, and watched it all. Akai, who can practice 8 gate to the 8th gate, has a talent in physical skills, but now Akai has not learned 8 gate, although in pure physical skills can suppress Kakashi, but once Kakashi uses ninjutsu and other means, the superior will immediately be judged. Crackling. Since Kakashi was defeated by Fengyi, his mood at this time was not very good, so after a few rounds of fighting with Akai, he directly used Thunder Dun ninjutsu, and a strange call of thunder defeated Akai. With a sound, it flew backwards, and all the hair was erected by electricity, emitting a burnt smell. But, damn! Akai fell not far away, knowing that he was defeated again, but did not admit defeat, but made a smoke in his mouth. Next time, I will win. Kakashi folded his arms on his chest and looked at Akai, shook his head and said, "You should give up early. You want to win against me, it is not reliable, then I win Funya. Thank you for your support." Akai got up from the ground and gave Kakashi a thumbs up. But then he was taken aback for a while, thinking of Kakashi's words just now, blinked and said, "Kakashi, what did you just say?" "No, it's nothing." Kakashi shook his head. Akai frowned and couldn't help looking at Fengyi, who was sitting on the treetop not far away, revealing a suspicious look. What Kakashi said just now seemed to mean, he couldn't win Funya. Although Fengyi is Kakashi's elder brother, he never thought about whether Kakashi or Fengyi is stronger, because there is no comparability. After all, Kakashi graduated at the age of 5 and was promoted at the age of 6. Forbearance, and Fengyi just ranked high in the class. I heard it wrong. Kakashi should mean that he wants to win Kakashi, which is less reliable than Funya winning Kakashi. After thinking about it carefully, Kai's eyebrows stretched out again. Whoosh! Fengyi jumped from the tree, fell down, looked at Kakashi and Akai, and said, "Are you going to continue practicing, or go eat something first?" Since Akai often challenges Kakashi and often practice together, Funya and Akai are also acquaintances, although Akai and a strange father and son Mato Dai can attract a strange look wherever they go, but Fengyi didn't have the slightest idea of ridiculing these two people. An outbreak of 8 gate, the 7 people of Wuin Ninba were beaten up and down, and the watermelon mountain puffer fish ghost and others who survived by chance cast a psychological shadow. Needless to say, the 8 gate battle beats Madara 6 times, and Kaguyaji almost kicked the man who couldn't open the coffin board. The most ashamed is that he has been playing the idea of 8-gate. But having said that, the technique of 8-gate is difficult and difficult to say, neither difficult nor difficult to say. It can be done by almost any ninja. It is one of the simple and rude typical physical skills, but it needs to be practiced. It's too difficult to get to the extreme, and it requires years of almost hellish training. It is precisely because of this that only people like Mato Guy and Mato Dai can stand the temper, and practice this extremely boring trick to the extreme. I just lost to Kakashi, so I will do 3,000 squats before I go to eat. After hearing Feng Ye's words and responding to Feng Ye, Kai immediately began to sit in the court and squat, ignoring the gaze of Kakashi next to him who wanted to complain. But seeing Kai immediately put into practice, Kakashi also shook his head, and said to Feng Ye, "I'm not hungry yet, I want to continue practicing." He was not affected by Kai, but was stimulated by Feng Ye. Because Feng Ye, who possessed the blood succession boundary, opened a long distance from him, if he didn't practice hard, he would probably be drawn further and further, which he absolutely couldn't accept. "Okay, then I'll go to eat first, you practice." Feng Ye didn't care either. A normal person's work and rest time is completely out of sync with him, because he has the ability to accelerate time, he has to eat at least 5 meals a day, and the actual practice time is estimated to be more than the sum of Kai and Kakashi. Naruto Time Control Chapter 8, Default Placement. Bikuj www.ntlnovel.com, the fastest update to the latest chapter of Naruto Time Control. Hokage Office. On the desk of Sarutobi Hiruzen, there is a document about some recent missions and actions of Kakashi. It is the third time that Kakashi has clashed with the new team and has a disagreement, so that it is difficult to perform the task normally. Kagesuke Danzo was standing at the desk of Sarutobi Hiruzen with a cane, and said solemnly to Sarutobi Hiruzen, "It seems you can't find a suitable place for that child. Sarutobi, in that case, it's better to hand him over to me." Sarutobi Hiruzen held a pipe in his mouth, glanced at Danzo, and said, "Are you going to cultivate Shumo's child into a tool that has no emotions?" Danzo said blankly, "Leave it to me to train. He will not make the same mistakes as Shumao, and will become an excellent ninja beyond Shumao." Sarutobi Hiruzen snorted, stood up, and said, "Don't tell me that you came to me specially, it is for this matter, Danzo." Danzo took a deep look at Sarutobi Hiruzen and said, "No, I just happened to hear about Kakashi. I'm here to ask you about your next attitude towards Wuin Village, Sarutobi. Are you going to go to war, or?" Sarutobi Hiruzen took a breath. Spit out a ring of smoke. He stood up, walked to the window, and looked at the sky far away. After a few seconds of pause, he said in a deep voice, "Take some shock. Their recent temptation is a bit too much. I will leave it to you. Up. It is good." Danzo nodded, walked outside the office, and said, "Sarutobi, don't waste that kid's talent. Hatake Sakumo's 2 sons, even if Kakashi's talent revealed he really cares a bit, otherwise he won't mention it, but if Sarutobi Hiruzen disagrees, now he also there is not so much time to deal with such things specially." Sarutobi Hiruzen did not respond, until Danzo left, turned his head and glanced in the direction where Danzo disappeared. He shook his head, Hatake Sakumo appeared in his mind and sighed. Shumo's death had a big impact on Konoha. The major ninja villages are now frequently testing Konoha, and there is also the reason why Konoha has lost the powerful combat power of White Fang. Kakashi was also affected by the death of Skomel. No matter which team he was assigned to, he would conflict with his predecessors. It has been more than 2 years since graduation, and he has never been able to be placed in a suitable team. The proposal is also justified. Your child is an excellent ninja, Shumao, but he is a bit too immature in dealing with people. Sarutobi Hiruzen pondered. The 2 children of Hatake Sakumo, Fengye and Kakashi, if Fengye can be called excellent, then Kakashi is undoubtedly a genius, as if he inherited Shumo's talent, maybe in the future can become the second Konoha White Tooth. How to place Kakashi is a problem now. So far he has arranged a team for Kakashi several times, but each time he won't stay long, he will come to him. It is impossible to give Kakashi to Danzo. Although the roots are really suitable for Kakashi, if you do that, I am too sorry for the dead Shumo. Shumao was very at odds with Danzo before his death, and he would never want to see his son being cultivated as a tool by the roots. How about this? Sarutobi Hiruzen, after many thoughts flashed through his mind, he finally made a decision and whispered to the empty roof, "Go and call Watergate." Ordinary Shinnin can hardly hold Kakashi, and the several possible suitable Shinnin he thought of before cannot fit with Kakashi, so that only the last candidate Namikaze Minato is left. After the death of Hitaki Tsukumo, the most suitable one in the village to succeed the 4 generations of Hokage is Namikaze Minato. Namikaze Minato also needs to cultivate some direct descendants of him, so Kaka the genius of Nishi was given to Namikaze Minato for training. Yes. The dark part of the roof responded and disappeared quickly. Sarutobi Hiruzen returned to the seat, took another cigarette, shook his head and said, "I didn't expect to have trouble with the water gate in the end." Because of the tense situation in the ninja world, Namikaze Minato is needed in many places, so he thought of Watergate for a long time but has not made a decision. Now he has circled around and came back. He naturally didn't worry about giving it to Watergate. After all, Watergate was his favorite candidate to succeed the 4th generation of Hokage. Teaching a genius boy this kind of thing is just pediatrics. While thinking, Sarutobi Hiruzen took out a document. The file contains specific information about the students of some ninja schools in this year, listed in order of their relationship with Kakashi. The top one is Kidia's personal information, but Sarutobi Hiruzen was just read and put aside. It is not appropriate for your brothers to be placed in a small team, not to mention that Watergate is still the successor to the 4th generation of Hokage. If Funya has the same talent as Kakashi, you can ignore these in order to cultivate the younger generation of leaders, but now the voices in the village need to be considered. Mado Gai, Uchiha Obito, Noara Rin. Sarutobi Hiruzen pondered for a moment and made a choice. The first is Uchiha Obito. The child of Uchiha and clan will be handed over to Pratunam, then Uchiha and clan will not be the same as Hokage. For Pratunam's successor there is too much opposition. Finally, I will choose a child of the civilian family. Mado Gai is a boy, so it is excluded. Noara Rin is just the right choice, which can achieve a balance in all aspects. Patter. After making a choice, Sarutobi Hiruzen took a cigarette and burst into laughter. The dignified Hokage even thought about the placement of a ninja, and specially intervened in the placement of students in the ninja school next year after graduation. However, Kakashi's talent is indeed worthy of attention, not to mention Namikaze Minato, and it is more assured that he will decide the candidates himself. Basically there will be no problems. After deciding on Kakashi's classification problem, Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't show much interest to other students. He put back the information file about Funya and others, and threw it aside. I hope that Danzo's actions can stabilize Wuin. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked up to the ceiling and exhaled a puff of smoke. The real headache for him now is the situation in the ninja world. The friction between the big ninja villages is constant, and it is almost a situation centered on Konoha. There is no other reason. The country of fire is the country with the richest resources, and Konoha won in the Second Ninja World War and shared a great deal of interest. This is the reason why all the villages turned their attention to Konoha. But he can't make concessions in terms of interests. In the ninja world, if you give in once, there will be a second time. You must use strong means to fight against outside coveting in order to maintain peace. Sarutobi Hiruzen is too clear. So if the situation really cannot return to stability and the Third Ninja War must break out, then Konoha can only fight with all his strength and speak with war. Thought of this. Sarutobi Hiruzen showed a hint of coldness in the eyes. Konoha, who acquired abundant resources in World War II, has a solid and huge backbone. Although his top combat power has lost a Konoha white tooth, his disciples Orochimaru and Jiraiya have grown into unique ninjas. The Rising Star also has such a leader as Namikaze Minato. If there is a real war, Konoha will not be afraid of other villages. Naruto Time Control Chapter 9, Obito, and Shursui. Bikuj www.ntlnovel.com, the fastest update to the latest chapter of Naruto Time Control. Ninja School. Before the morning class time, the playground was full of hustle and bustle at this time, and many tall and short teenagers could be seen gathering there, and the center surrounded by the crowd was scrambling. Fire escape. Fengxian fire art. A young man made a seal with his hands, opened his mouth to the people in front of him, and frightened them, but only a little flame came out. After a short pause, the teenagers opposite him suddenly laughed. Is this also called ninjutsu? Come on. Beat him. Asshole, show me the trick. There were about 7 or 8 teenagers fighting together. They seemed to be students in the lower grades. They basically didn't know much about ninjutsu. They were just pure fights. 2 of them were a little older, and they fought in a decent way, even can see the release of Avatar and some other ninjutsu. The crowd onlookers chanted cheers, and some were afraid that the world would not be chaotic. The scene seemed chaotic, because it was too early, and no teacher Zhongren came to take care of it. What are you looking at? Feng Yi appeared not far from the playground, glanced at the field, walked a few steps here, and stretched out his hand to pat the shoulder of a figure outside the crowd. Shi Rihong was shocked, turned her head to see Feng Yi, and immediately heaved a sigh of relief, and said, "Morning Feng Yi." Early. Feng Yeshi smiled and said, "Let's go to the classroom." He has no interest in watching children fighting. Shi Rihong glanced at the center of the melee, hesitated for a moment, and said, "That. Okay." Feng Yi looked at her. Shi Rihong said helplessly, "The sun is over there, it seems to be beaten." Feng Yi said strangely, "Yang." Shi Rihong pointed to one of the young people who were fighting in the field, and said, "Hey, it's him, Shi Riang, my uncle's cousin." Never heard of that. Feng Yi shrugged, and was really not interested in characters who had no impression that they weren't even a dragon, and said, "Boys fighting is too normal, you girls should not interfere, anyway, Zhongren teacher must be watching this way, no need worry about what." But Shi Rihong was a little helpless, and she was also a little tangled. No matter, it seemed a bit unreasonable, but there seemed to be no reason to control it. Seeing Shi Rihong's entanglement, Feng Yi curled his lips and took a step forward, making a simple knot in both hands, and pressing it gently on the ground. Soil escape. The technique of earth movement. Oh, huh. Seeing Feng Ye's movements, Shi Rihong was surprised at first, and immediately felt the ground under her feet shake, because she had been prepared for a while before she fell. However, the crowd gathered on the playground suddenly fell apart, and the several teenagers who were in the melee were also separated because of the sudden movement. Feng Ye, you. Shi Rihong stabilized her figure. Before she finished speaking, she saw that Feng Yi had put her finger in front of her lips, made a silent gesture, and said with a small smile, "Okay, it shouldn't be possible to fight. Let's go." The many students who were stumbling around did not know what was happening for a while, thinking that there was an earthquake, which seemed a bit chaotic, and the previous melee was completely interrupted. But not all students are in chaos. A student in the crowd frowned and looked in the direction of Feng Yi, apparently aware that the movement just now was Feng Ye's ninjutsu. "It's really messy." The boy shook his head. "He looks a little younger than Kakashi, and wears clothes with Uchiha and clan logos. Although he is inconspicuous among the crowd, his name is still very loud. Uchiha Shisui." Unlike Uchiha Obito, Shisui is a genius who is almost not inferior to Uchiha Itachi. Before opening the kaleidoscope, he was able to make a name for himself in the hidden battlefield of fog, and after opening his eyes, even more I got the kaleidoscope writing will eyes known as the strongest illusion, don't be God. It was not only Shisui and Shi Rihong who discovered that Maple Yi used the art of earth movement, but also Noera Rin, which was also on the playground and turned to Maple Yi's early morning. "Feng Ye, you are too messy." Lin never walked over and murmured at Feng Yi, and said, "But Feng Yi, you are so amazing. The earth movement technique seems to be a sea-level soil escape ninjutsu." Not noticing that Lin was here, Feng Yi made a low-pitched gesture at her, smiled and said, "I stole it from Kakashi, a trick." Uchiha Shisui looked at the scene here, curled his lips, didn't intend to come over to say anything, turned and left, but didn't wait for him to take a few steps, but stopped again. Not far away. A teenager who was wearing Uchiha and clan costumes and goggles just like him was standing in front of Feng Yi, making a fist at Feng Yi, saying, Hey! Funya, let's have a showdown. It was Uchiha Obito that challenged the Maple Knight. Today, he rarely encountered any accidents on the road. He arrived at the school early and was not late. As a result, he walked to the playground. At first glance, he saw Feng Yi and Lin talking and laughing there, and his mentality exploded on the spot. It just so happened that there seemed to be a fighting atmosphere on the playground. Uchiha Obito angrily clenched his fist and found it. Bored. Feng Yi glanced at Obito. He was really not interested in the Obito before the blackening, and the Obito before the blackening was considered a kind and sunny boy, and Feng Yi didn't have the idea of bullying children. Damn, stop me. However, seeing that Feng Yi should not fight, Obito was even more uncontrollable, and suddenly jumped to the front of Feng Yi. Whoosh! Obito attacked with a rough action. Feng Yi sighed and avoided the attack of Obito sideways. He reached out and put his hand on the shoulder of Obito. With a slight touch, Obito lost its balance and the whole person was in the air. After turning around, he fell to the rear embarrassedly. Seeing this scene, Lin covered her forehead. Shirihon was also speechless for a while. Is this guy Obito really from Uchiha clan? The name of Uchiha is a little bit inconsistent. In my impression, the adults mentioned Uchiha clan, they are all in awe of the famous family, and almost all the people of Uchiha clan are geniuses, and they are among the best in each class. The existence of Obito, but the gap here is a bit big. However, as Yurihong's voice fell, a voice came from one side. I can't pretend that I didn't hear those words. Uchiha Shisui did not know when he came close, watching Yurihong speak calmly. Obito and him are both Uchiha clan, but the relationship is too far, he doesn't care much about anything, but when he mentions Uchiha clan, then he can't turn a blind eye. You are. Yurihong stared at Shisui and said, Uchiha Shisui. The name Uchiha Shisui is very resounding in the ninja school, all results are first in the same level, and even recently defeated a shinobu. This level is undoubtedly able to graduate early. In the eyes of many people, Shisui is the only genius of this generation who is close to Kakashi in talent. Naruto Time Control Chapter 10, The Shock of Shisui. Bikuj www.mtlnovel.com, the fastest update to the latest chapter of Naruto Time Control. Noting the movement on Shirihong's side, Feng Yi turned her head, and the first moment she looked at Shisui, she recognized the identity of the other party and tilted her head. Red shouldn't question the meaning of Uchiha clan. Moreover, it is not too one-sided to question the famous clan by himself. Uchiha clan are still many geniuses. Hearing Feng Yi's words, Shisui's expression slowed down. Originally, he didn't intend to take care of Feng Yi's affairs. There was no need for a senseless conflict. He just heard the words of Yurihong crossing the line slightly, and started to alert the other party. However, in the next moment, the pupils of Shisui suddenly shrank. Because a hand quietly rested on his shoulder, this made his body stiff in an instant. The owner of that hand was Feng Yi. How come? Shisui, his pupils shrank violently, and there was a glimmer of incredible light. Feng Yi showed a harmless smile at Shisui, then took his hand back without saying a word, and walked towards the classroom, while not far behind him, standing still talking to Shisui, that Maple Knight turned into white smoke and dissipated in an instant. Doppelganger. It is the clone that stays in place. In the previous moment, Feng Yi left a clone in the same place, and the main body was near him in an instant. As a genius, Shisui naturally understood what happened in an instant, but even if he understood, he still couldn't help taking a breath. The clone technique and the instantaneous technique? How could it be so fast? Feng Yi's body became a clone and appeared next to him. It was incredible. In other words, if he was in a battle just now, he had been killed by Feng Yi instantly, and he was killed if he still didn't understand the situation at all. This. Yurihong and Noera Rin were also taken aback. They also didn't react for a while, or they didn't see how Feng Yi left a clone in place, and the main body came to Uchiha Shisui in an instant. The two women glanced at each other, and both saw a hint of shock in each other's eyes. After reacting, the two women glanced at Shisui, which was still staying in place, and then immediately chased them in the direction where Feng Yi had left. Shui took a breath, forcibly calmed the waves in his heart, turned his head and looked in the direction where Feng Yi had left, still a little shaking in his eyes. Kakashi's name of genius is unknown to everyone, and Feng Yi, who is used as a comparison, has always been labeled as general talent, ordinary, and no talent. This moment Shui is right, these reviews only want to respond to one word. Blindly. Although I don't know Kakashi's strength, relying on Feng Yi's methods just now, Shui dared to conclude that Feng Yi will never be much worse than Kakashi, or even stronger. Call. This kind of strength can't be obtained suddenly. That guy has been hiding himself and never deliberately revealed his talents. Even if he is criticized, he has not shaken. Shui murmured in his heart. At this moment, his judgment on Feng Yi was terrible. Compared with the young and energetic Kakashi, the brother of Hitaki, Feng Yi not only has terrible strength, but also has a calm, restrained and mature personality. Such a person is undoubtedly stronger than Kakashi. If I didn't want to test my strength as a genius, I'm afraid he wouldn't reveal anything. Shui took a deep breath and felt that the name of genius he carried on his back became a lot heavier for a while. Uchiha Shui, in his youth, should be no worse than Itachi, but it is not clear when he opened the kaleidoscope and gained the ability of other gods. Feng Yi returned to the classroom and touched his chin to think. Because it is one of the geniuses in the original Uchiha Shui, and his attitude towards Yurihong is a bit arrogant, so I used a little trick to see if this future, short-body Shui. After reacting, the result seemed to be a little bit close. Feng Yi, you just after Feng Yi entered the classroom, Shirihong and others also chased in. As soon as they sat down beside Feng Yi, they couldn't help but speak to Feng Yi. Although I don't know what happened, Kidia seemed to be shocked by Uchiha Shui just now. At that time, it was obvious that Uchiha Shui was stiff in expression and eyes. Just now, I just said hello to Uchiha Shui, don't care. Feng Yi smiled. After all, it was the tense situation before the 3 world wars, and there was no problem in revealing some strength. Shirihong looked at Feng Yi with her eyes open and said, but he was obviously scared by you. Feng Yi took out the textbook, put it on the table, and thought, well, after all, I have more than 2 years of experience in ninjutsu. Despite what Feng Yi said is simple, Shirihong knows that what happened before is definitely not that simple. Uchiha Shui is a genius who is famous throughout the school. Being able to scare Uchiha Shui is definitely something to show off. However, Feng Yi didn't seem to have such a thing happening here. She has still talked and laughed as usual, which made Shirihong admire Feng Yi more and more. Compared with those boys who show off with a little honor, Feng Yi's personal charm is undoubtedly it's almost at the top. Noting Shirihong's eyes, Feng Yi sighed softly in his heart. This look seemed to have planned to give him a baby. Shouldn't he be a little restrained? But he didn't seem to be doing too much. Ugh. It's nice to be young. Feng Yi also wanted to join the life of the World Ninja School in Hokage with a rare chance, and enjoy the stress-free and sunny teenage days. He planned this from the beginning, but unfortunately he couldn't do it. 2. No matter how you deliberately forget, you will always think of the Third Ninja War, the Nine Tails invasion, and Pen's destruction of Konoha. This is a dangerous world, a world that requires sufficient strength to enjoy peace. Feng Yi stretched out while leaning on the chair, looking out the window and murmured, if it's a daily world, it would be great. Shirihong tilted her head and looked over and said, Feng Yi, did you say anything? No, something happened. Feng Yi shook his head, and immediately burst into laughter. Even if you really travel to the world like Yuan Mokong and Miss Yui, there will be various pressures to push forward, unless you stand at the top from birth. Being able to come into this world with the ability to manipulate time, and the start was before the Third Ninja World War, it was relatively peaceful Konoha. It was already a normal difficult start. If it was in Wuren village, when they were in school, they had to fight each other, or even kill their companions, and then delete the ability to manipulate time. That was undoubtedly difficulty. Thinking like this in her heart, Feng Yi was waiting for today's test while refining the flow of chakra in her body. Speaking of which, the training method of 8 gate shouldn't be difficult. Feng Yi groaned, manipulating chakra in his body, trying to find out the specific position in the body one by one according to the position of 8 gate in his memory. He wanted to try if he could figure out how to practice 8-gate by himself. The real difficulty of this forbidden technique lies in the diligence of each discipline, the accumulation over the years, not the initial development, otherwise Mado Dai would be impossible to find out. To put it simply, 8-gate should be like writing a word over and over, and you only need to write it countless times with perseverance, and the ninjutsu such as the Seal of Ghosts and the God of Thunder is like it is a world-class mathematical conjecture, and it is impossible to do without talent.